first things first, what exactly is this? It's a 2006 DR650, affectionately known to me as the Yamazuki. So, what exactly is on it? We've got some YZ450 forks and a DRZ400 rear shock. I'll get in further about the details on them as we go through, but essentially, that's what it is. Now, why do I have them on there? Well, there's a whole stack of different reasons, but if I'm brutally honest, it's purely because upside down forks that are super fat look awesome. So does the rally screen, but I'll talk about that in another video. To be a bit more serious about it though, I previously had rebuilt the stock DR suspension. I put bigger springs in it. I didn't do valves, and I put a bigger spring on the stock rear shock, and they made a massive improvement. So did the fork stabilizer brace. But for the riding I was doing, it was still getting skittish at high speeds on the dirt. In this kind of stuff, and this lovely rock garden that I'm at today, it was absolutely terrible. You could hear the spring moving inside the forks, and I just wasn't enjoying myself. So, on Marketplace popped up these YZ450 forks. After a lot of computerizing and looking around on forums, I decided to have a crack at it. So I picked those up and went to town on fitting those forks. Now, they're from an 04 YZ450. I think you fit pretty much any YZ fork to the DR650. The trick is it's a DR650 stem, so the part that goes up through your steering stem, and the rest of it is YZ. So that's YZ wheel, YZ brakes. You can actually keep the DR650 caliper. They're the same as the YZs, though the rotor is smaller, but it bolts onto the forks. And yeah, the other thing being the DRZ400 ignition, because the stock DR650 ignition is giant and has a steering lock. So I don't have a steering lock. Please don't steal my bike. Now, moving right along to the rear before I actually talk about the performance on these things. So in the rear, I previously tried a heavier spring, which made a massive difference. I got so much more traction than changing tyres ever did for me by putting the right weighted spring on the back. But once I'd done the forks, I could really feel that the rear just wasn't keeping up. So because I'm a cheap bastard, $100 for a rebuilt DRZ400 rear shock. And again, more of those lovely thumper forums all about DR650s. And I quite easily, actually with a bit of modification, trimmed down the tube, trimmed down and put a custom bearing in the bottom of the fork and ordered a custom spring. So that's a QA1 400 pound 10 by 2.5 spring from, well, essentially a hot rod store in America, and for I think all up $200. Rear shock was in. I've got full adjustability of compression and rebound, and it is mint. So overall performance of this combo that I've got on the bike, look, I rate it. It is awesome. The tunability in those forks and the rear spring mean that I've been able to dial it right into the kind of riding I do. I'm still learning a lot about suspension, to be honest, and it's really been a lot of trial and error. I take it out through a place like this and either go softer or harder and just see how it goes, and then repeat until I feel like it feels better, and especially much further down there, when we get to the faster flowing dirt roads, it's made a massive difference. So on the upgraded stock suspension, I would top out on a dirt road at about 80k an hour before she started getting skittish, like flighty in the front, sort of felt like you were riding on loose sand no matter the surface. And now I can happily say that she'll do any speed limit required, and I don't even need to think about it. So this thing's been keeping up. If you saw my video on the Croombit adventure, or Croombit, however you say it, this thing kept up just fine with a stack of KTM 690s and 701s. I obviously wasn't anywhere near as comfortable or plush as they were going over the tracks. I am not going to lie and say that this thing's better than a KTM because, let's be honest, it's not quite there yet. It still is only a $4,000 bike with $500 worth of suspension on it. And that probably brings me to talking about price. So, all up, this is not worth the money. I've got to come out and say that. I managed to pick up some bargains. If you do too, then maybe you can give it a go. But to run through the costings, the forks, which were fully rebuilt by a local mechanic, he was selling them, were about $300. I picked them up on Marketplace. The front wheel is an Excel rim that I picked up off, I think, eBay for about $100. I had to get a brake rotor separate, put all new bearings and everything when I did it. Moving along towards the back, the DRZ shock was $100, the spring was $100, and I think the random bushings and bearings were a couple $100. So I'll put the total up on screen here so that everyone can see how much that set me back, because I can't do math in this heat. The other thing worth noting is I did sell all my old gear because I had recently rebuilt it. I did get a bit of coin back for that, so I'll put up the amounts that I got for that once I check how much it is. And here's how much it cost me. Please don't tell my wife. Look, and that, hopefully nice and succinctly, is going to wrap up this video. Just a brief overview of what I've done to the DR in terms of suspension. I will come out with another video shortly where I'll talk about bash plates, because this is actually my test run for the Cherby plastic skid plate instead of the B&B alloy. Spoiler alert, it's worth a coin to change it over. Actually, that's so much quieter and less vibrating. Anyway, I don't want to ruin my next video. Yeah, and we're going to talk about tyres soon, because I am a couple of thousand Ks into these D606 and MT21s, and that's fresh off of 2 different sets of Motors tractionators. So I'm keen to give my thoughts on that one as well. Anyway, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you got a question about this stuff, drop it in the comments below. I'm always happy for a chat. If you want to come out and ride with me and you happen to live in sunny Queensland, middle of nowhere, shoot me a message. I'd love to catch up and especially ride with some other DRs. If anyone out there has a DR with an upgraded carb, specifically an FCR carb, I'd love to test one. I'm thinking that mod has just the right amount of tinkering for me to give it a go, so that might be coming up soon. It's enough talking from me. Have a great one, legends. See you later.